Hare Krishna, welcome all devotees. My special obeisances to His Holiness Janananda Gosvami Maharaj. Maharaj, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So I just wanted to give a small plan for today, like the next this thing. So for the next 1 hour, we will have discourse by His Holiness Janananda Goswami Maharaj. And we just completed our half an hour Kirtan, and thanks to Navin Krishna Prabhu, Brajabhakti Mataji, Narari Prabhu, and Parikshit Prabhu for that amazing Kirtan. And at 12:30 we will break for the local announcements, and based on Maharaj's availability we can have a few questions at the end of the discourse, so you can put those questions on the chat. And so we'll have Navin Krishna Prabhu, one of the senior members of our congregation here, to introduce Maharaj to all the devotees who are logged in. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you. Prabhu, are you on mute? Navin Krishna Prabhu?
You have to unmute.
Yeah, looks like Prabhu is unmuted. Let me check.
You're still muted, old boy.
Yeah, now I got power. I could not unmute myself before. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for your kind association as well as your opportunity for giving an opportunity for us to get to know you and see you and hear from you. This is the first time I'm also hearing. So today, our congregation member, Sunday Law Feast, Columbus, July 4th, 2021. His Holiness Janananda Maharaj is kindly giving us his audience through his Zoom. So, a little brief introduction about Maharaj. So, Maharaj joined ISKCON in London and initiated by His Divine Grace A.C. Srila Prabhupada in 1972. Maharaj served in various countries around the world, but last few years he's really been dedicated himself supporting the ISKCON France Yatra. For most of the lockdown, Maharaj has been serving at ISKCON New Mayapur, France, engaged in variety of practical services and providing much support to devotees in trying to maintain the project over there. And Srila Prabhupada stayed in New Mayapur 3 times and installed Sri Krishna Balaram deities there. So New Mayapur is a farm community, and the temple, which is an old French castle, is only remaining ISKCON property in Europe where Srila Prabhupada stayed. So that's where Maharaj is spending his time nowadays. So Maharaj is an exceptional practitioner and an exponent of Kirtan, Harinam, and Book distribution in the line of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Maharaj's quick wit and loving personal nature is very uplifting and inspiring all of us to take shelter of Lord Prabhupada. Having said that, let's give a round of applause as loudly saying Hari Bol. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, back to you. Please take control from here.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes or no? Yes or no? Can you hear me? Yes, okay. Hare Krishna Prabhus. Well, you had a wonderful kirtan, and we will not have any more kirtan of that kind. We'll try to have another kind of kirtan, glorification of Krishna and the Vaishnavism. Vanchakalpa turubhyascha kripa sindhubhya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Om Ajnanatirandasya Jananyana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvetam Sadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Purnamami Hare Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya Uttare. Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Prasharine Nirvasesha Sunyavari Paschatya Deshatane. Hare Krishna. If I'm not mistaken, it's Independence Day in America. Is that correct?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj.
Wow. And you are still having your program on this day. I can't believe it. You're really devoted. I'd have thought you'd all been out waving the flags or something. Well, independence. Prabhupada talks about his idea of independence on his first meeting with his Guru Maharaj. And he thought that India should be independent. Well, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj didn't exactly agree with him and made it quite clear that there's no question of independence in this world. Let me ask a question. Are some devotees on Facebook or any other kind of media?
Maharaj, we generally used to have the YouTube, but today for some technical issues, we are not able to do on YouTube. But this is being recorded in the Zoom, Maharaj.
I see. So some devotees are on Zoom, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
We have around 22 devotees on Zoom, Maharaj.
Okay. So independence. Well, it's interesting because you're there in Columbus. Huh? Columbus, Ohio, is that right?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj.
Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio.
And the city, as far as I remember, is named after Mr. Christopher Columbus.
You are right. You are right.
Who is, let's say, historically credited to the discovery of the United States or the Caribbean or whatever it is, that part of the world, although, of course, it was already inhabited. And on this day, so many hundreds of years ago, you gained your independence, okay? But as we know, everyone in this world is completely dependent. Why? Because it's the nature of the self. It's the nature of the jiva to be dependent. It's an abnormal situation to be in a state of trying to be independent. This whole concept of independence, which of course is used sometimes for various situations, even in devotional service, but in reality, who is independent? Even Krishna is dependent. Everything that exists is dependent in one sense. We sometimes say that Krishna is a big Yasurat. He's completely independent. He's completely all-knowing. But at the same time, even Krishna is dependent. Maybe in a different way, but he's dependent upon his devotees, especially the intimate associates of the Lord. The Lord depends on them, practically. He's more or less controlled by his intimate devotees. It's like in this world, everyone is dependent on something. We cannot say we are independent. Not only independence, but we also are forced, practically speaking, forced to surrender. Whether we're dependent or we think we're not dependent, we're nonetheless forced, whether it's within society, whether it's by the material nature, by our own karmic reactions, etc. We're under the control of the three modes of nature. Unavoidable situation. So today's topic I saw was divine relationships. Relationships itself infers relativity, related to something. We have relationships in this world to everything that we come into contact with. And on the gross and the subtle platform, relationships are there. They may be of a neutral stage. For instance, we have a relationship. I'm sitting on a chair, maybe you are too. We have a neutral relationship with our chair or with the environment around us. It affects us. It may be neutral in one sense, since there's not necessarily, it might be, but not necessarily much of a direct interaction from the object of our relationship. But at the same time, it affects us considerably. The weather, the environment that we're in, including, say, even the furniture which we're sitting upon, the bed that we sleep in. The weather especially affects every one of us, very much so. And we could also extend that to, say, relationships with people whom we just pass by on the street, or we hear about on the television or internet or something. It affects us to greater or lesser degrees. Relationship is unavoidable. We may have tried to avoid it, considering it a source of stress or misery or something, but relationship is always there. We may be just having a relationship with our thought patterns, which are coming into our mind, which are also not us. We may identify with them or not, but they're not us. And we have a relationship with them, and it disturbs us. Relationship is the inseparable character of the soul, or one of the characters of the soul. Always having a relationship. We don't exist without a relationship. Of course, we hear about the impersonal Brahman, where the living entity, basically speaking, is in a suspended state of, let's say, its eternal constitutional nature is being in a kind of a suspended state of existence, with no relationship in the material world and no specific identified relationship on the spiritual plane, except for self-identity of being an eternal entity or eternally existing. There's no extension to that understanding of our identity. So it's incomplete. The soul needs, in the absolute sense and in the relative sense, relationships, and is searching for them. We may know that this material world is compared to a reflection of the spiritual realm. So whatever we see in this material world has its original presence in the spiritual realm. what we experience and what we perceive within this world is a reflection of that spiritual realm. Just like a reflection in the water of a tree on the bank is upside down, and according to the, you could say, the state of the water, it will be reflected differently. If there are waves on the water, the reflection will be very, well, you could say, broken. It'll be up and down all over the place. It won't be very clear. If the water is very dull, then the reflection will not be very clear either. Different factors may determine how the reflection appears to us, the perceiver of the reflection. The object is the same, but the plane upon which the object is reflected may appear differently. And that is due to the three modes of nature, through which the original nature, the spiritual nature, is reflected into this material world in the form of different objects and so many varieties which we experience, and becomes very complex when karma comes into place and a living entity interacting with this reflected energy interacts in various ways, creating various karmic reactions. And it becomes very, very complicated, a big mess, not a mess in the real sense of the term, but it looks like a completely jumbled up situation. But it's all so expertly, scientifically, perfectly controlled by the Supreme Lord and his agents. But from our perspective, it is very hard to understand. It's a very perplexing situation that we're in this reflective nature, and we're experiencing the effects of that association in the form of varieties of happiness and distress. But the soul, who is experiencing the varieties, the dualities of this world, is still searching for the very same thing of its own constitution, relationship. We are all looking for ideal relationships in this world. But where is that ideal relationship in this world? We're searching for it, we're working hard for it, we're making every endeavor we can to achieve these lasting, perfect relationships. But they don't last because the nature of this world is such. All things must pass. Time, another form of the Supreme Lord, takes everything away. Nothing that we experience is family relationships, social relationships, relationships with our body and mind, relationships with animals, trees, environments around us, and relationships with various activities that we perform, and on and on and on, varieties of relationships with our place of birth, our identity, our unending, entangling us in a myriad of karmic, subtle and gross reactions, resulting in future material bodies. This is meaning of karma. It means activity which results in receiving a future material body. This is the nature of this world, but the nature of the constitution of the soul continues even in this mundane or material world, searching for relationship, constitution. And we experience in this world varieties of relationships on a par, although perverted and affected by time. The rasa, the word rasa, if we read the Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu, the words in of themselves are very analyzed. In the introduction to the Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada analyzes, Rupa Gosvami analyzes these words and breaks them down into their own individual components. Well, rasa is usually a mellow taste. It also means a relationship, that mellow taste of relationship. If we read further in the Nectar of Devotion, because in essence, the Nectar of Devotion is a most essential book. Srila Prabhupada said it's not just for devotees, is for people in general also. It's a science of devotional service. It's also the science of living entities psychology. And as we read through it, aside from the fact that there is so much emphasis on how to awaken our original relationship with Krishna and with this on the spiritual platform by practically applying the science in this present situation we're in, where we have relationships with this world, and how to connect those relationships to Krishna through their various practices and devotional service in the Vaidhi sadhana bhakti stage, gradually purifies us or removes the cloud of our consciousness so that that which we're perceiving becomes a little clearer, and we start to see it for what it is in relationship with Krishna, both our own self-identity, the identity of others, and the world around us. One gradually sees things as the property of Krishna, that Krishna is the friend, that Krishna is the real enjoyer, and that we're his servants and part and parcel. So different types of, you could say even theoretically in the beginning, but knowledge starts to awaken as our heart becomes clear. By practice, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita in the 4th chapter, those who apply themselves to this knowledge realize this knowledge in due course of time. So similarly, the devotee applies the instructions of nectar of devotion. And as one progresses beyond the false identities, beyond the anartha nivritti stage, one becomes steady in one's devotional practices, and one begins to experience a taste which is sustained. It's not just a taste when things go our way, or we get what we like. I like gulabs, I got gulabs. I don't like ladus, I got ladus. I didn't like it much. Not on that level, but on a level of actually beginning to connect with Krishna as the reservoir of pleasure. And devotional service is the connecting means to develop or awaken or reawaken our relationship with Krishna. It's interesting. Originally, I wanted this topic more on the platform of a revolution. Now, people's understanding of revolution may be something within the realm of the material world, changing from one aspect of materialism to another aspect of materialism. But real revolution is not that kind, not the American Revolution. Today is Independence Day, where there was a revolution, a war, and they eventually, whatever, the states won the war and drove out the British or whatever it was, and got their independence. They revolted. But a real revolution is not that kind, because it doesn't change much. We're still in Maya. As I say many times, I once saw a very interesting signboard on the back of a bus. And I think all of you in Columbus, many of you are into professionalism, maybe IT or engineering or doctors or something. Even if you win the rat race, so you have this term, rat race, in America? You have this? Yes or no?
Yes, Maharaj.
You do, okay. Rat race. So even if you win the rat race, you are still a rat. It's a very profound and simple, too simple to sometimes digest. But it's a very simple understanding. Even if you win the rat race, so what? You're still a rat. You're still in Maya. Or we're still in Maya. And like this, people are in this illusion, in this material world. And whatever kind of relationship we have in this world, revolution, so to speak, doesn't change the fact that we're still in Maya. Communism, capitalism, this ism, that ism, and so-called freedom. There's no freedom in this world. In reality, there's relativity, relationship with different, different experiences from those relationships, but we're still relating with a dependent and a conditional and a duplicitous world. And until we awaken our genuine spiritual which is defined in this sense of today's term, divine relationships. Usually, if we look into the dictionary definition of divine, it's related to God or related to those related to God. It's not like the modern terminology sometimes. Oh, that whatever, that food was simply divine, people may say. Well, it's a reflection of divinity because we're getting some temporary, let's say, bliss, temporary relief, temporary satisfaction. That was simply divine. That holiday resort. Oh, I'm sure you're all hankering to go on holiday. The summer's coming. The summer holidays are upon us. And the lockdown is easing up. I can't wait to go on my holidays in, I don't know where you go, but wherever it is, I guess it's America, somewhere there. I can't wait to go on my holidays in Brooklyn, in Columbus, maybe somewhere else, whatever. But that holiday was simply divine. But it's not really divine because divine relationships never end. Divine relationships are not wrought with duplicity or dissatisfaction, frustration, anxiety. But this material world is full of it. Full of it. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj describes this material world. The constitution of this world is simply, this material world is simply anxiety, constant stress. You can never get peace in this world. Turmoil, the words he uses are turmoil and annoyance. Can't avoid it. It's the constitution. The constitution of the soul is to have blissful experience eternally and in knowledge. But this world is Nirvananda. There's no real bliss. It's asat, it's temporary. A chit full of ignorance. How can we be happy in such an environment? But we try because it's our constitutional nature to be happy. It's our constitutional nature to experience loving exchanges. It's our nature. So divine doesn't really have an application in this world, only when it's connected to the divine, to the supreme. Although Krishna said, this material world is also my divine energy. It's very hard to overcome. It is divine energy, it comes from Krishna. But we're not seeing it like that. We're seeing it in relation to ourselves, not Krishna. And the more we see things in relationship with Krishna, the more divine relationships can develop, even in relationship to this world, when we see others in relationship with Krishna, not just in relationship to ourselves. It becomes more and more divine. Even in the association of devotees, there's a kind of a mixture there. Yes, we're all trying to be devotees, but Prabhu, there's something relative there too, I don't like you because you do this and you like that and said this about me and so on and so forth. There's a relative thing too, based upon our conditional, whatever state of consciousness we are in. So revolution. Now, there's two things I'd like to mention here related to today also, is that today, at least here, I don't know about in Columbus, but today is the disappearance day of Srivas Thakur. Is it the same there?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj.
It is, okay. So we all know, or maybe we don't all know, but many of you know, that Srivas Thakur was very, very close to Lord Chaitanya. They had such a relationship. And Srivas Thakur is very instrumental in the beginning of a revolution. When Lord Chaitanya came to the house of Srivas Thakur, he said, it's because of your loud chanting, your kirtan, and the loud chanting of Advaita calling for him that he appeared. Srivas Thakur, along with others, of course, was busily engaged in chanting the glorious names of the Lord, even though there was so much opposition. Now, again, we've heard who Srivas Thakur is. He's the eternal Panchatattvam Krishna Bhaktirupa Swarupakam. We know he's eternal. He's not like he becomes Srivas Thakur. He's eternally, that's his eternal constitutional connectional relationship with Krishna of the Panchatattva. He's the eternally situated, pure, and represent the Lord in 5 features, the pure devotee. One of the aspects of the absolute truth, the energies of the Lord and the Lord's expansive energy in the form of the jiva. Srivas Thakur is the eternal, perfect, pure devotee of the Lord. And he also appears as Narada Muni. Sometimes we hear he becomes, sometimes we hear he expands, and so on and so forth. But that's also another eternal role which he plays in relationship with his material energies as Narada Muni. And if we look back in history a little bit, 5,000 years back when Narada Muni went to Dwarka, and there he was in great anxiety when he approached Lord Krishna with Rukmini and Krishna. And he was in anxiety because he could see Kali Yuga is upon us. Already people are not showing in the universe, not showing interest in your holy names. And he was in great anxiety. So the Lord consoled him. Don't worry, very soon I will appear. And he revealed his form as Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And I will come and I will spread the holy names of the Lord. And don't worry. You can spread this good tidings everywhere, and I will deliver everyone who takes shelter of the name. So, and Narada Muni was very instrumental in this. So then when the Lord comes, that same personality accompanies the Lord of Srivas Thakur. And he's very instrumental there in setting the scene as a very intimate friend of Jagannath Mishra and his wife, very intimately associated with Sachi Mata. And they were like brothers and sisters, practically, so close with each other in Mayapur. And he was very close with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with Nimai Pandit, and he was always praying that he become a devotee. Of course, he's more than a devotee, he's the Supreme Lord, but he's in the role of a devotee. So Nimai was always playing games and sometimes mimicking the devotees and so many things, behaving like a frolicsome lad and up to all kinds of mischief. And when he became a little older, he was absorbed in scholastic studies, not the goal of, let's say, devotee, to serve Krishna. But of course, after some time, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, having made that connection with Ishvara Puri, revealed his devotional purposes. And then the Sankirtan movement began. But before that, Srivas Thakur was already engaged in much kirtan, lots of kirtan. And when Lord Chaitanya started his kirtan, the kirtans especially were performed in Srivas Angan, in the house of Srivas Thakur. And their loving exchanges reached their peak. Constitutional. Now, these associates who participated, just like in the rasa dance, where there's a perfection of relationship, the topmost divine relationships were manifested in this world for our benefit, as well as the benefit of those coming into the Leelas. We have the beneficial opportunity to hear about them. So to hear about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing and the singing and the interaction with the devotees in Srivas Angam, in Lord Chaitanya's movement, is the highest, you could say, perfection of subject matter. It is internally, externally it may appear different, but internally this is a reenaction of the Rasa Leela, basically speaking. And only those who are on that level of intimacy were able to appreciate or enter in, even if they saw it, if they were not on that level, could not appreciate it. It's like we may hear the Rasa Leela, but we can't enter into it. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers have made it possible to enter into this rasa. This rasa, this relationship, is also eternal. Sankirtan Ras is also eternal. And it parallels the relationship of Rasa Leela, of Krishna Leela, etc. They're parallel. The pure chanting of the holy name will awaken whatever our relationship is with Krishna in its eternal pure form. That Sankirtan is the secret for attaining divine relationships with, whether in this world or in the spiritual realm. Sankirtan is the key. Everything else is to, let's say, embellish or support the absorption in Sankirtan, in chanting and hearing subject matter pertaining to Krishna. This is how our hearts become cleansed, realizations awaken, our false attachments, the false ego, and the consequent envy and greed and lust and anger and everything else that tends to develop in this world are all evaporated or removed when one becomes a genuine relationship with the holy name. This is what we're endeavoring, the Sankirtan movement, in the association of devotees who are cultivating, Kirtankaris, who are cultivating this relationship with the whole pure Shuddhanam relationship with the holy name of Krishna. And this is this Sankirtan movement is for this purpose. It doesn't start at the end, it starts at the beginning. And it may be very, not even mixed, it may be in complete ignorance with no idea at all what is going on. But somehow or another, a connection is made to that merciful, divine Golokera Prema Dana, Harinam Sankirtan, that mercy which is descending from Golok Vrindavan. The holy name has appeared in this world directly from Golok Vrindavan to give us a chance to awaken again that divine relationship with the Lord. All relationships in this material world are reflections, and they're based on karma, of course. They're based maybe on achievement, maybe upon obligation, lusty attractions towards things, repulsion, acceptance and repulsion, all sorts of materialistic considerations determine our positive and negative relationships in this world. But if we want to actually experience divine relationships, Srivas Thakur and the associates of Lord Chaitanya are showing us, I'm talking this bit, we could talk on any lila, but this particular lila happens to be Srivas Thakur's Tirubhav today, so related to Srivas, the dancing and chanting in Srivas Angan are, you could say, in this day and age particularly, are the access of all the mood and the follow-up of the Sankirtan movement from there on in are the access to that transcendental or divine relationship with Krishna. So I'd like to read a little something now, with your kind permission, from Chaitanya Bhagavat, and just a little something from this wonderful pastimes. Please, dear devotees, readers, not readers so much here, but this is how Vrindavan Das starts his sector, dear readers. So dear devotees, we please, as our Shakespeare, I'm from England, by the way, so Shakespeare is, maybe you've heard of him, famous author and poet, etc., literature, famous in English literature, wrote many dramas and various writings. Kindly lend me your ears. I will give them back to you, don't worry. No, you just try to open up the ears now and just simply hear from Chaitanya Bhagavat, the divine pastimes, the divine relationships, which is not something we can just sentimentally imagine. Oh, I am a gopi. Yes, I am a peacock. Oh, I don't know. Sounds more like a chicken. But whatever we think we may be, it's not like that. These relationships are very, Prabhupada himself writes in the Nectar of Devotion, that he's dealing with it when discussing ecstatic symptoms leading to or let's say Raganuga Bhakti leading to ecstatic symptoms, that discussing the relationships of the queens of Dwarka with Krishna, or Nanda and Yasoda and Krishna, etc. These we may hear about. These we may become purified by hearing from the right source with a submissive heart. But Prabhupada says that unless we have transcended the three modes of material nature, there is no question of entering into these pastimes. We can hear about it, as we hear about Vrindavan, but that doesn't mean we go to Vrindavan. We're becoming eligible, maybe. We have to purify our hearts. So this is the Sankirtan movement. Now, another aspect of which I'll read this in a moment, just a little prelude, is in the nectar of devotion. We see the whole purpose, this word rasa, which we began to define, meaning mellow relationships. Let's go further, compatible relationships. And if you ever do read beyond chapter 19 of the Nectar of Devotion, you may eventually come to the other divisions of the great ocean of devotion. And one may see that there's, compatible and incompatible rasas or relationships. And it's it's the original psychology, you can say. All the problems in this world are caused by incompatibility, whether they're general, because it's incompatible for the soul to be in this world, or specific, we're in an incompatible situation for our conditioning due to our karma. We find ourselves in an incompatible situation because we put someone else in an incompatible situation previously. Or for a devotee, Krishna is removing all the vestiges, all the remains of any material affection in our hearts. Because we have to become freed of all material affection. That doesn't mean affection. Material affection means we're seeing things in relation to me, my family, my country, my religion, my body, my society, my everything, my whatever it is, Maya. We have to become free of Maya. Mayahu. Yes, it's very clever. Huh? You read if you're on Yahoo, Mayahu. Mayahu, Mayahu, you. We're all in Maya. We have to become free of this. Or go ogle. Google, go ogle. Ogle means to become enwrapped in a material object. Go ogle. Get absorbed in Maya. That's what we're trying to get you to do. Absorb yourself in mundane life, please. And then Mayahu. These are the tricks of Kali. There, we have to become free of all these webs. They call it the web. I get caught in the web. We have to become free. I'm not saying if you're an IT specialist, you have to give it up. But we can get completely absorbed in this superficial world, this unreal world. You have to be free. And even on a more natural plane, even our entangling absorption in family life, in society life, in piety and impiety, and all the other dualities of this world, and false relationships, or let's say temporary relationships of this world. We have to become free of our attachment, we may still be responsible in those situations, but not entangled in them. And then only can we, as who was that? Lochano, Narottam Das, in that beautiful song, Gauranga Baliti Habe, Ishoya Churiyo Kabe, Shura Kabe Mon, Kabe Hama Herabo, Shri Vrindavanam. If we want to enter into Vrindavan, then we have to become free. Sense gratification literally means seeing things in relation to myself. Whatever form it takes after that is detail. Krishna conscious means at Krishnendriya, seeing things in relation with Krishna. That's the process of devotional service. So we'll also see naturally as one becomes purified, natural emotions, natural, let's say, emotions, natural moods, natural proclivities awaken in relationship with Krishna. Compatibility is a natural thing on the spiritual realm, if we follow the proper process. Not that we are prematurely. Sometimes people try to jump prematurely to the spiritual platform without going through the various stages. And I was analyzing the other day this word prematurely. It has prematurely. Prema, too early. That's the breakdown of that word. Prema, too early. We're not ready for it. We have to follow the process. We're trying to get prema in this world, and we don't get it. We get something completely different. We're looking for it, and then we try in our imperfect way to experience prema in devotional service. That will come in due course of time, Prabhupada said, when the heart becomes purified. Process of purification and a natural awakening of a divine relationship with Krishna, and consequently everything is in relationship with Krishna. A relationship with everything else would automatically awaken simultaneous with our cultivation of our Krishna conscious relationship with Krishna. So I'm going to read this nectar now because time is short. It's 6:15 here. It must be, I don't know what it is there.
Yeah, Maharaj, 12:15, Maharaj. Yeah.
12:15. So another 15 minutes. We have enough time to read some nectar from Chaitanya Bhagavat. Okay, ready?
Yes.
Anybody still there? You haven't gone yet.
No, Maharaj, everybody's on mute, so
everyone's on mute. Or they've muted themselves. You know, your ears are not on mute as well. You haven't put on your coward boy dress or your gopi dress or whatever it is. Remain where we are, as Lord Chaitanya said, and just hear when Lord Chaitanya was discussing with Ramananda Roy the perfection of human life. And just to stay where one is and just hear Jnana Prayasamudra Pastanamanta Eva, just to hear the subject matter of Krishna Katha from the pure devotees. This is the panacea. This is the panacea, the medicine to hear Uttama Shloka, subject matter pertaining to Krishna. And even more powerful is to hear Chaitanya Lila. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna in the mood of Radha. When we hear this, this is the access, this is the means to actually become eligible to enter in to Krishna Lila, to hear how the Lord and his devotees interact. Dear readers, I'm going to drink some water. Now that's not in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. I just need just give me a second. Independence Day, cheers. I'm sure you all got your champagne bottles on the table there ready to celebrate after this. You have champagne in America?
Yes, Maharaj, yeah.
I know they have beer.
That started already on Friday.
Near beer.
Yeah, it started on Friday itself.
Taste the rasa of beer by drinking near beer, but don't do it. Not good. Dear readers, hear these narrations about the Lord's transcendental ecstasies very attentively. For in the entire creation, there is no one who can dance so gracefully, give me a second, as Lord Chaitanya. Similarly, the beautiful and exuberant singing of his associates, which accompanies his dancing, is also incomparable. We were discussing this morning a very unique point, how when the Lord at Rasayatra with his associates was dancing and dancing, the singing and the dancing of others and everything about what was going on was simply in accord with the heart of Lord Chaitanya. This is oneness with the Lord. When we act only for his pleasure, that is the meaning of being one with God. Our heart is one with the Lord. We have no separate agenda other than satisfying the Lord. This is our aspiration. It may not be our present situation, but this is our aspiration to work towards. The Sankirtan is the Yuga Dharma method of this cultivation of this selfless, pure, harmonious love of Godhead. So all the devotees, whether they're singing, they're not playing their drums to show off. It's not because they're karmically good at it. It's not because they're looking for a girlfriend or a boyfriend. So I must dress in such a way. Nothing like that. Everything is simply like an instrument for the will of the Lord's heart. The way devotees would dance, it was not in egotistical ways to try to show off or whatever, exercise something. And the same with the musical instruments, the singing, everything just perfectly compatible with the mood of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nectar devotion is all about this compatibility, becoming compatible with ourselves in terms of our spiritual identity and living on the spiritual path, and then in relationship with the Supreme Spirit, compatible relationship. Then one can enter in. If one's nature is not compatible, then one cannot enter into these pastimes. One may see them from a distance, one may hear about them, and thus become purified. But to go further and to enter in, one has to have the nature, the compatible nature for that mood, which Lord Chaitanya is experiencing or sharing in the house of Sri. That's why so many people were not allowed in. They didn't have, they may have been greatly learned Brahmins, maybe even devotees, but they didn't have the right mood to enter into that pastime. It's all about compatibility, divine relationship. It doesn't exclude someone from another relationship, maybe fraternal, paternal, neutral, servitude, whatever it is, but this most intimate relationship is the penultimate of all relationships, the highest pinnacle of all intimacy. So let's read on a little more. From early dawn on special days, such as Ekadashi, Dwadashi, and Vishnu Tattva appearances, Lord Chaitanya assembled all the devotees in Srivas Pandit's house and began enchanting everyone with his jubilant dancing, meant to capture their attention, so we become absorbed in chanting and dancing, absorbed in hearing Krishna Katha, absorbed in our service, because it's related, even if it's not yet connected fully from our side, it is nonetheless Krishna's hand. Take hold of my hand, hold it, don't let go. Krishna will pull us back to Godhead. This is absorption in hearing and chanting and dancing also. In the house of that most fortunate soul, Srivas Pandit, a melodious tumult of the holy names of Govinda and Gopala went up into the atmosphere. Different kirtan groups came forward from the assembled devotees. Srivas Pandit headed one group, Mukunda another, and Govinda yet another. They all sang and the Lord danced. We can try to visualize it a little bit, even though we can't really say that we're visualizing it as it is, but at least we can remember and try to purify our hearts by remembering Lord Chaitanya and the devotees in the kirtan, singing and dancing in the Srivas Angan, in the courtyard of Srivas Thakur's house. Nityananda Prabhu, the great spiritual stalwart, circumambulated the dancing Lord, while Advaitacharya stealthily lifted the dust from the ground, where the Lord danced and put it on his head. Gadadhar Pandit and others experienced divine exhilaration and looked at the Lord with tearful eyes. Hear now of how kirtan was performed to accompany the Lord's magnificent dancing. Often the holy name was sung in Bhattiyari Rag. Yes, they would also sing in different rags, all come originally from the Rasa Leela and other Leelas, all the various ragas, and they're just perfect combination of sounds to satisfy the various emotions the Lord is experiencing, to to embellish and further develop those thoughts in the Lord's heart. So all the ragas are there to serve the will of the Lord. Here now, the directions resounded with the singing of the holy name, Govinda. Mahaprabhu danced in accompaniment, lost in his scintillating bodily movements. The devotees sang, Hari, O Ram, Hari, O Ram. I'll jump forward because we have little time left. You could read the whole thing in Chaitanya Bhagavat. I can't tell you which chapter it is. I think it's chapter 25 of the Madhya, but I may be wrong. I'll jump forward a long way here. Here we go. The Supreme Lord Chaitanya exhibited these extraordinary displays of ecstatic emotion because his body would sometimes elongate, he would shrink, he would all ecstatic symptoms appearing, roaring sounds falling to the ground, and his body was just like a golden mountain and sometimes multicolored. It was, what can we say? You can just hear the description. You have to read it. We don't have time. He exhibited these extraordinary displays of ecstatic emotion, totally under the influence of his mood as a Vaishnava devotee. He wasn't in the mood of being Krishna. He was in the mood of a devotee. And if we know that's why Lord Chaitanya appeared, Krishna appeared in this form to experience the moods of a devotee, which are even more intense. The loving exchange is ever increasing on both sides, you could say, but especially in the devotees, very intense. In that when they're actually enwrapped in unending, unimpeded love of Godhead. Nothing, just completely absorbed. And even in this world, when we really love someone deeply, the more deeply it is, the more we go crazy to be with them, or if anything goes wrong, we go mad almost. Even for an animal, we go mad sometimes. For a dog, not to speak of a husband, wife, child. For our country sometimes, our football team, our cricket team, whatever it is, we go crazy sometimes. We're so enamored. The relationship is so strong. We have to develop that same intensity of a relationship with Krishna. Others, often repeating unspeakable words, the Lord would shout before a Vaishnava, whom he previously respected as Prabhu, and then suddenly catch him by his hair. But it was all spontaneous. There was no feeling, why are you doing this to me? It was just spontaneous love. And you can't define love by normal definition. It comes from the nature of the soul and the heart. The Lord would call out, "This fellow is my servant," and stand upon his chest. The same Vaishnav whose feet he previously tried to catch in humility. Now he's standing on their chest. You sometimes see kids like this with their fathers sometimes. Their intimacy is there. They can do anything. They kick their father 1 minute, next minute, father's kissing them, whatever it may be. The devotees all around were so captivated and moved by the Lord's ecstatic symptoms that they put their hands around each other's necks and cried. The entire group of assembled Vaishnava looked so radiant, their bodies decorated with sandalwood tilak and tulasi mala. They blissfully tasted the nectar of chanting Lord Krishna's name. The sounds of their voices, mridungas, conch shells, and kartalas mingled to a melodious uproar. Everything was melodious. It wasn't just a cacophony of sounds and everyone doing their own thing. That's what happens in the material world. Therefore, nothing satisfies. Everyone's doing their own thing, and there's friction in relationships. In the spiritual world, everything is in relationship with Krishna. There's no envy, there's no pride. It was so divinely enchanting to see Lord Gaurasundar's dance, surrounded by all of his associates singing sweet, melodious kirtan. Advaita Acharya, unable to control his ecstasy, often went into trance and covered his entire body with straw. In humility, he held a straw in his mouth, and with some upon his head, he danced vigorously. This is another important aspect of divine relationships. Divine humility, tolerance, respect are imperative in the practicing stage of devotional service. At least it may not be divine exactly, but at least we have to practice these characters, these qualities, in order to become or to come to the platform of Shuddhanam or pure chanting, to enter into these pastimes. His eyebrows drawn close together, the assembled devotees were astounded by Advaita Acharya's ecstatic symptoms, while Nityananda Prabhu and Gadadhar Pandit were shaking with laughter. The free soul, you want independence, freedom, revolution, all these things, discovering, the new world, whatever you want to call it. This is the reality. This is the actual platform or the actual process of achieving this. Become absorbed in Sankirtan, chanting, hearing, remembering, worshipping. Tasmat ekena manasa bhagavan sattvatam bhati shrotavya kititavyascha dhyaya puja shanitida. Goswami said, therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead. As a friend of the devotees. Yadani jasana karma grantani bandhanam chindanti kovidas tasya kona kuyas kataratim. We can cut the knot of these false relationships by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, we will not pay attention to his messages. So as much as possible, whether we're in Columbus, or we're in Gainesville, or we're in Scotland, or we're in France, or we're in New Zealand, or wherever we may be in Europe, Germany, anywhere, wherever we are, process is exactly the same. The details may vary, the process is the same. Hearing and chanting about Krishna more and more, especially the Maha Mantra. So it's time to finish. Thank you so much, and I'll finish there.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you so much for the amazing discourse. Maharaj, I have a couple of devotees asking questions. So do you have some time, Maharaj?
Oh yeah, I didn't. I thought you were making announcements.
And we can extend for a few minutes, Maharaj. That's not a problem. We can extend for a few minutes. But should I request the devotees to unmute and one by one ask questions?
They can do that, or you can do it on chat, whichever. There's a lot on chat already, I see.
Right. So, but I think we'll start with Mayuri Mataji. You can start with your question. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna, Prabhupada.
Krishna, I have a question. Can one develop love for Lord Krishna without loving devotees around them?
No. A quick answer. Short and quick. Simultaneously. It depends what we mean by love. And you cannot possibly, because love is a two-way thing in reality. And it's not something which is just in the sentiment only. It is, it is a sentiment only in the real sense of the term, but not in a conditioned sense. Now, loving devotee, how can you love somebody? Probably always say that, if you love a man, you have to love his dog also. And even if you don't love exactly, you can't, you have to show respect, you have to, whatever stage we're on, but you can't divorce the devotees from the Lord. Now, what we mean by love, at our stage, even Prabhupada said that we're not really worshipping or loving Radha Krishna, we're worshipping the mood of Lakshmi Narayan, reverential worship. So in the stage of reverential worship, it's not spontaneous love in the same way that it is in pure bhakti. It has rules and regulations, different guidelines are there. So our love for Krishna at our stage is expressed by following various rules, various regulations. We don't jump over that stage. That's not how it awakens, because awakening of love of God depends on the mercy of the Lord. The mercy of the Lord is dependent upon the mercy of the devotees. The mercy of the devotees are the instructions which they give us to follow. So this is how it passes down, you could say, in a simplified form. So following the guidelines or the instructions and devotional service, or the awakening of our devotion, Tampasangam Mamavaya Samvido, Vanti Vidkarna Vasayana Kata, it takes place in the association of devotees. Now, the difficulties you're having of appreciating the devotees or having loving exchanges is, we all know, it is not easy. It's not easy, but it is a reflection of our, in one sense, not having genuine love. We have conditional love for God. Conditional means we expect something from him. So when we have relationships with devotees, and sometimes they're tough, the part of this is, one part of this is that Krishna is actually giving us making an arrangement in the association of certain devotees, which is just suitable for the particular obstacles which are in our hearts, which are blocking us or can maintain our conditional relationship with Krishna, are removed if we understand properly how to relate with devotees around us. And it doesn't mean we have to surrender to everything and anything we're surrounded with. We have to learn how to relate in a proper way with those and that around us. And this will help to free us from, say, the obstacles on our path of pure love of God. And we'll start to appreciate, oh, actually this devotee I thought was my, let's say, not my best friend, we'll put it mildly, is actually my best friend in one sense. Well, they may know or not know, or they may think like that or not think like that, but it's helping me to actually get free of my false ego, getting free of my intolerance. Of course, we may become more intolerant, but eventually we have to realize, wait a minute, what is Krishna got in store here? Why is it happening like this? But instead, unfortunately, we generally try to adjust the externals. The real point of this is that we realize it's the internals that have to be changed, not the externals. So loving Krishna and loving the devotees, what can we say? When we say loving devotees, we're not really loving devotees if we're still seeing them on the external platform. We may be respecting their service. We may be honoring their service. We may be willing to follow them or serve them, whatever it is. But the real love is when our hearts are completely purified and we're seeing everything. We're seeing even our worst enemy, as Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj said, one should wish nothing but the highest good fortune for one's worst enemy. And we see everyone around us opportunity to become purified. Then we can show appreciation, respect, and so on and so forth more. So they go on simultaneously in reality. As we awaken our Krishna consciousness, our appreciation of everything grows also, because everything is related to Krishna. As we grow in Krishna consciousness, we can see that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maharaj. It was a wonderful answer. Thank you.
Love feast. Oh, it's a love feast. Okay, divine love, divine relationships. We used to go to these love-ins. When I was a teenager, we go to love-ins. I don't know if you know what that is. It's not quite the same as a Sunday love feast.
Maharaj, next Navin Krishna Prabhu posted his question on the chat. But Prabhu,
I don't know where I am. I can't work out who's asking what to who here.
Yeah, Navin Krishna Prabhu, if you want to unmute and ask the question.
Yeah, okay. So maybe you can say it because I can't see it on the chat.
No,
I
sure,
can see Ramesh. Everything's Ramesh. Ramesh is everywhere. It's all coming from Ramesh.
Hare Krishna.
Who's Ramesh? He's stuck in a mesh.
Go ahead, Navin Krishna Prabhu.
I see it now. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I repeat my question. Thank you very much. When Mahaprabhu decided to reveal his purpose from Nimai Pandit to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and started spreading the Sankirtan, but initially he had a reservation sharing that to everybody, but kept it only for a few confidential devotees. Whereas we know he has 3 internal reasons, 3 external reasons why he came, but then eventually he revealed that to the entire world, and he did the same thing at the end. He kept it very confidential.
External reasons. Can I read it? Because I kind of got lost there with reading and hearing.
Sure.
When Mahaprabhu decided to reveal his purpose and spread Sankirtan, but initially have reservations, sharing that to everybody, but kept it only for very confidential devotees, whereas he has internal and external reasons, whereas for his appearance, is there any reason before he does it public to the whole world, but he kept it close only to few? Of course, he did that to everybody, and also the okay, La, yeah, you got it. Well, again, it's a little, I would say, is a little bit related to what I try to understand and try to share regarding to the mood of the devotees in Srivasangam. It wasn't others weren't eligible for devotional service, but on that level of intimacy, just like the Rasa Leela, so many were not allowed in. Even some of the gopis couldn't enter in because they still had identity with their wives and husbands and whatever, families, and they had to become purified of that. But it's not that they weren't devotees, and they were great devotees, and they become eligible to enter in. We have the example in Srivasangam of the milk-drinking Brahmin, who was a little bit proud of his austerities, and he was very devotee, and the devotees liked him, and the mercy of the devotees, you could say, he kept appealing to Srivas Thakur, please now just come in and see the Lord's dancing, please let me in. There was also Srivas Thakur's mother-in-law who also got the boot, but he came in, and Srivas eventually succumbed to his appeals and allowed him in, hid him away. Don't show your face, whatever you do. You look from a distance in a hidden space and you can see the Lord dancing, okay. And then at night when Lord Chaitanya is dancing, lo and behold, he's not experiencing ecstasy. Lord Chaitanya stops the kirtan and says to Srivas Thakur, Srivas, are there any non-devotees in the house or in the room? No, my Lord. No, only pure devotees are here, my Lord, honestly. Srivas, are you sure? Yes. Kirtan carried on. Still, the Lord was not feeling the ecstasy of Norm, because there was some incompatibility in there. Just like if you have sweet rice and somebody puts a grain of sand in there, it's or a drop of neem juice. It's like, it's not compatible. So the Lord stopped again. Srivas, tell me honestly, is there someone here who's not a pure devotee? Well, not really, my Lord. I mean, there's one brahmachari, a pure brahmachari, my Lord. He's a strict celibate brahmachari, and he only drinks milk. What Srivas is this? Bring him here. And they dragged him out. Do you think you can attain me just by drinking milk? That is not the qualification. Lord Chaitanya just chastised him, and they had him throw him out. The poor brahmachari was thrown out from the Anga, from Srivas Anga. As he was going out, the brahmachari, what was he thinking? He wasn't thinking, this rascal Nimai, what is he doing? No, he wasn't thinking like this. Oh, how fortunate I am. For a moment, I was able to see the divine dancing of my Lord. How fortunate am I? He was thinking like this. Lord Chaitanya immediately said, bring him straight back. He's ready. So they brought him straight back in again. He joined the actual inner, you could say the inner sanctum of the Sankirtan. But the Lord was giving everyone else a chance to become eligible for that. This is what this Sankirtan movement's all about, to become eligible. We may not want, we have another idea, but to give us this opportunity to become eligible, giving us this chance to absorb in the Sankirtan movement. So Lord Chaitanya was going out during the day performing congregational chanting around the streets of marketplaces of Navadvip, and in the night he would have his confidential devotees. Same in the nectar devotion. We may hear about the confidential aspects, but we can't enter into them. It's not our business to imitate and think that we can enter into them in our present state of consciousness. But by following those who are qualified, humbly following in their footsteps, then one may, by their mercy and Krishna's mercy, become eligible to enter in. So Lord Chaitanya has given that to everybody. His followers have even more so. The Sankirtan movement is nothing but an expansion of the Kirtan and Srivasangam in a way which is appropriate to our level of consciousness and the public's level of consciousness. But it is the, you could say from the heart, the energy is going out all over the body. So from the heart of the Sankirtan movement, Srivasangam, this Sankirtan is going everywhere around the body, energizing everyone. bringing everyone back home, back to Godhead. So whether beginning, middle, or end, Lord Chaitanya's mood was really, I mean, may not have manifested, but it was to bring everyone. That's why he took sannyas, to give everyone the opportunity to go back to Godhead. The Sankirtan movement was also doing that before, but not everyone appreciated it. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, so at least they'd respect him, giving him a chance to progress a little bit at least. Anything else?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Mr. Ramesh, we have 101 questions here.
Yeah, I'm just checking if anybody else has any questions.
Oh, you keep asking if anyone has any questions. Okay.
So
Please turn on your
please,
vision.
devotees, if anybody had any questions, either you can raise your hand or unmute yourself.
Anything from Newcastle? Long time, guys. No see. It's great to see you online. Very well. I know some of the devotees online. I don't know everybody. I've never been to Columbus. The closest I got was probably, I don't know, is it closer to New Vrindavan or closer
Yes,
to
Maharaj.
Pittsburgh?
We are only 2 hours away.
Pittsburgh, New Vrindavan, Detroit, Chicago. I don't know if any of those are close to you guys.
Yeah, next time, Maharaj, you should definitely come. It's hardly 2 hours drive from New Vrindavan.
Oh, from New Vrindavan?
Yes, we are just west of.
How far from Pittsburgh?
From Pittsburgh, it will be like 3.5 hours.
Oh, it's further from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, further from Pittsburgh. Yeah, 3.5 hours drive. Okay. So, Maharaj, I don't see any other questions or any other comments.
Now they realize there's no point asking any questions, I think.
No, Maharaj, there's a very nice.
Perfect questions, useless answers.
No problem. Perfect questions, perfect answers. So, thank you. I think Rohinandan Prabhu, you want to ask one question or?
Who's that? Rohini Nandan? I don't know. Is that Rohini from Paris?
No, it's Marie from Newcastle.
Rohini Nandan from Newcastle.
Somebody else asked a question.
How to associate with devotees when the moods are not matching anymore and there is not another association available? Hare Krishna. Pray. Well, I mean, I don't know if there's no one else to associate these days. We do have so many other forums of association. The first thing we could look at is our own hearts. One of the tendencies in the conditional world is to look for, as we mentioned in the beginning, independence, revolution, this thing, that thing, is the tendency to look without for solutions. And it's not that we don't make any effort also, of course we have to, but the primary solution is within our hearts. Looking at when faults in others misguide, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj to say, when faults in others misguide and delude you, look within. Try to look at one's own heart instead of don't pry into the frailties of others, but look at our own hearts. Now, why is that? Why is it that relationships with other devotees are not matching? Now, it may just be that, as we heard, that there is even in Vaishnava Sangha, some devotees are naturally more compatible with others than others. We have different relationships. Some are just neutral. We should try to at least maintain neutral relationships, if not positively direct ones. Maybe service comes in also as much as we can. The more we put Krishna in the center of our lives, in the sense of chanting and hearing the deities. I'll give an example. When I first joined the Hare Krishna group in London, perhaps in 1971, 72, beginning of 72, I was a bit, let's say, maybe, I don't know if I was concerned. I just noted that most of the devotees in the temple were devotees people, let's put it on another platform, people I would not have associated with normally. Their moods, their behavior, etc., were quite contrary to what I was trying to, live. My circle of at least my endeavor of a circle of association was very different. that, type of persons. I won't say the natures, etc., but they were very different. And I thought there may be a challenge herein. How are we going to, how am I going to live in such? But because we are so absorbed in devotional service, particularly, of course, in that time and the whole activity, most of you are working devotees who are online today, and you have families, so it's a different situation. But then practically everyone was single, men and women alike. And there was no much discrimination, really. I mean, there was, but, obviously for living and this thing and that thing. But in terms of kirtan, sitting in the temple, there wasn't much discrimination between men and women. We were just to sit where you sat, and that was it. And chant where you chanted in the Sankirtan party, and that was that. But we were at least 8 to 10 hours a day on the street dancing and chanting. At least. And when you're in the temple, it was completely absorbing hearing katha or doing service. There wasn't much time to think about whether I get on with this person or not. We just got on with that service for Prabhupada. So the more we can put Krishna in the center, then one will find less and less that one will be disturbed by the incompatibility. When we talk of incompatibility at this point, we're talking of material incompatibility, by the way. It doesn't mean it's a permanent effect. It may not be a permanent incompatibility. It's not like on the transcendental plane, where we may have a constitutional nature which is not compatible to the constitutional nature of another rasa. In the material world, these are just temporary coverings which manifest in the form of minds and bodies and thoughts and desires, etc. So that can change, and it will change as our hearts become purified by focusing, putting Krishna in the center of our relationships and not trying to just adjust. You spend your whole lifetime trying to adjust relationships, you'll never reach it. Never. As Krishna will send someone else along until we take shelter of putting him in the center, putting his will in the center. This is a secret of divine relationships, is putting Christians. And that's why Prabhupada, one of the reasons, not the only one, but one of the main reasons Prabhupada emphasized deity worship. So we have this consciousness of putting Krishna's will in the center, even if it's different to ours, or we have different ideas, but to appreciate that, okay, my way of serving Krishna may be different, but that devotee is also, Prabhupada said, as he said, different ways of serving Krishna. Try to appreciate the positive factor that is related to Krishna. So the main thing is to try to be related to Krishna, whether online, whether in the family, whether in the community, whatever it may be. Try to see how we can help each other to put Krishna in the center. That's what we're here for. We're not here for conditional relationships. We're not here for material compatibility, actually. We're here to get free of what we call compatible or incompatibly, materially speaking, relationships and awaken our genuine relationship with Krishna. That comes from putting Krishna in the center. And don't forget, Krishna has a hand in whatever situation we're in, and he's looking to see if we take his hand, or we still try to hold our own hands. We can hold our hands and Krishna's hand at the same time, but not separately from Krishna. The separatist nature is the prominent characteristic of conditional life, seeing things separately from Krishna. Chanting, hearing, remembering, worshipping Krishna. So don't take heart that Krishna has a reason here to help you to appreciate more the association of devotees, at least in the long run, even if it's not from our conditional platform perfect. It's more perfect than anything else, that's for sure, if we want to become Krishna conscious. As I said, without the association, if we think we can become Krishna conscious without the association of devotees, we are living in hallucination. We need it. How we get it, what form it takes, that's another thing. It doesn't necessarily always have to be physical. It may be these days online. It may be an intensive focus on siksha that we receive from a devotee. We're in a far distant place, or somehow or another we're separated. But we're focusing on, like Prabhupada said, he never forgot his spiritual master's instructions at any moment. He focused on those. So that's association too. after all, what's the use of physical association if it doesn't help us to become Krishna conscious? Association with devotees means that association, which helps to awaken more Krishna consciousness in our hearts. It's not just a physical thing, because we're in tilak and we've got neck beads on and we've got a name which sounds something like Krishna's name. We forget the word behind it, which happens to be Das. It's to the extent that that association awakens our enthusiasm. Now, that devotee may not be compatible. If we appreciate the service they render, that can be very good. That can inspire us to also render service according to our nature. This is preaching. It's not to make everyone a clone. It's to awaken it within every single living entity, and even in their conditional state, a natural, awaken some kind of natural inclination to serve Krishna or to serve the mission of Krishna. And if nothing else, then simply pray. Pray for the Lord's mercy that we, whatever, please, I need association. Please guide me how to associate. Maybe first, as I say, we look at ourselves and see where the shortcomings lie. We can pray for the Lord to help us in that regards. We can approach, surely we have someone we can communicate with somewhere. We can communicate with them and help ask for specific guidance or something. And Krishna will reciprocate. He's waiting for us. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said that one who thinks they can reform this world is in need of reform. We can't reform the world. You can't reform those around us. We're here to reform our own hearts. This is the revolution. Revolution within. The way we see things. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said, we have to change the way we see things, not what we see. When we see others as being incompatible, they may be in a temporary sense of the term, but we can see it from different angles also. We have to try to be a little bit more broad-minded than just seeing it from a conditional perspective. Seeing things from today, by the way, before I forget, is also the day when His Holiness Bhakti True Maharaj departed from the world 1 year ago. And it was all the time was already passed, I think. Yeah, maybe 5 or 6 hours ago or something. But don't forget Bhakti True Maharaj and how his contribution to Srila Prabhupada's movement has affected us all so positively. He's such a great soul, such a great devotee who lived for Prabhupada's pleasure. We may not be compatible with the conditional natures, but we have to appreciate the glorious service which he's rendered to Srila Prabhupada, which will never be forgotten. So it's also a very special day there too. Okay, well, we're over time, and I'm sure you've got some announcements to make.
Thank you. Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much. I know it's been a long 1.5 hours for you, Maharaj.
Oh, no, normally my Zoom classes are over 2 to 3 hours.
Oh, my, okay.
This is a short one, right? Dinabandhu, this is a short one, right? Dinabandhu's in New York.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Amazing nectar, Maharaj. And so my special thanks to Rasikananda Prabhu and Krishna Namananda Prabhu from New Jersey, and who gave me this contact, and we were able to.
He was the one to blame, huh?
So it's all because of Krishna this is happening. So we are really lucky to have.
Now you're blaming Krishna.
So, thank you, Maharaj. We will continue with our local announcements, and then we'll go from there.
There's a few devotees I see who was in not only Newcastle, there's to Gainesville and all the way from Wellington. I mean, that's right, the morning. And Scotland and France, Scotland again and France again. I can't see the rest. Australia is there, Philippines is there, I think.
Right.
India is there. Yeah.
And Maharaj, we have New York also. So
New York
City.
New York. We have Old York as well. From York itself in England. And Columbus. Okay. All glories to Christopher, otherwise you wouldn't have Columbus.
Thank you, Maharaj. So Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo.
Am I free to go now?
Yes, Maharaj, please.
Have I got my independence?
Yeah, we had our fireworks yesterday itself, so Maharaj. So that's good.
Huh?
We have our
Pardon?
fireworks celebration yesterday evening. So
Did you?
yeah,
One day early.
they
One day
celebrated
late.
one day earlier itself. So.
Well, they say actually it was on the 2nd. Many people say the real thing was on the 2nd. They only declared it on the 4th, but they actually did it.
Okay.
Others say it was August the 2nd. There's a different history there. I'm
Right.
studying American history, you see. No,
So-
I actually did study American history when I was a kid.
Right.
Okay, all glories
Thank
to
you so
Srila
much, Maharaj.
Prabhupada. Thank
Thank
you for
you,
your
thank you.
association, all the devotees. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Haribo!
His Holiness Janananda
Srila
Swami Maharaj,
Prabhupada
Goswami
ki
Maharaj.
jai. Hare
Great.
Krishna.
Great.
Glories to the devotees of Columbus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
India.
thank you, Columbus devotees, for joining. So,
Ireland is
Right.
online too. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for all devotees.
Haribo.
Thank you. So a couple of quick local announcements before we finish the program today. So one is devotees who have signed up for the Krishna lunch. Today, as you know, there's a Vaishnava Seva for His Grace Nitai Chand Prabhu's mother, Her Grace Pramodini Gopika Mataji. So please make sure you are here between till 2 o'clock. They'll be having the to-go boxes. Please come, and if you have already signed up, please come and pick up the boxes. The second one is tomorrow is Yogini Ekadashi. It's also one of the very auspicious day. So please, there'll be a 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Facebook. One minute. Sorry, the phone is. Hold on. Just hold on, please. Yeah. So phone stopped. So the second was like the Yogini Ekadashi, the 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. we will be having online kirtan. So if anybody still wants to do kirtan, please sign up. Otherwise, I'll send out the communication shortly on that. And then the third one is some of the senior devotees here have resumed their Bhakti Vriksha programs. So if anybody is interested in joining any of the Bhakti Vriksha programs, which is a weekly program, please contact me or Prem Sindhu Prabhu, and we can help you get onto a Bhakti Vriksha program. I think that's all I had from the weekly announcements for today. If anybody wants to add something, do I see Prem Sindhu Prabhu or somebody? No, I think they all dropped. Thank you, Mata. Thank you for everybody for joining, and Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.